Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. This is the Road to the Record, where I work to achieve mastery of 10 games and a hunt for the best score of the Decathlon. If you like to see, remember to hit that like button. You want to see more? Hit subscribe. Let the games begin. This is Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2019, episode number 13. We're 3-1. It's early in the season. We've won 2 out of 3 on the road, and our first home game as well. Next up on the calendar is Minnesota. It's all non-conference stuff as of right now. We've already got our recruits from next year. Not as big as the recruits we had coming in this season, but it's still going to bolster the team going forward, as we are very young this season and we'll be a little bit better off next season. You can see we've got a couple guys redshirting right now. Brian Dixon, Trico. These are actually both our walk-ons. As both freshmen we have this year, Granberry and King are both essential players. We have just one player in danger of some academic ineligibility. Everybody has a 3.0 GPA or above outside of Edward Ramey, who has been tasked with studying more for the next month, as well as getting a tutor for the next month to try to work on that GPA just a bit. And looking at the overalls, we've got some real quality in the team that we did not have at all last year. I had a single player at 2.5 stars, which was Delord. He's now at 3.5. And then Granberry and King, those true freshmen, both of them 4.5 stars. Insanely good players. And then we have that drop off to 2 stars to everyone else. But even then, we have a lot of guys, a lot more guys at 2 stars, a lot of guys at 1.5 stars. So definite improvement to the squad. One thing we do need to watch out for, though, is Runyon and Harrington, both sore leg, sprained toe, minor injuries as we head into this Minnesota game. Really excited about this season with these upgrades to the roster, especially with those freshmen. I am nervous that I could lose one or both of them this year or next to the draft. That early departure would certainly hurt us. You look at freshman Clint King right now, 16.8 points per game, 12 rebounds per game for him. And our other freshman, Granberry, not the huge numbers, but 7 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game is still pretty solid. But yeah, Clint King is absolutely killing it out there. It's only 4 games, so those numbers will certainly fluctuate. But let's go ahead and get our 5th game of the season underway. And we get the first scoring going with Granberry with a 3-pointer to the score. Plan to play quickly through this one. I want to get to that back edge of the season within this episode. I'm hoping that I'm going to have enough quality this season to get into some postseason tournaments. Let me turn the volume down on the game a little bit here. There we go. Should be better now. 14-9, early lead here against Minnesota. Minnesota is one of the higher ranked teams that will play this season. And even though they are just 2-2 to start their season, they're still definitely one of those better teams. One of those higher prestige teams, probably 2 or 3 divisions above us. Most likely, I'm not sure exactly what division they are. But with that home court advantage, you can see we're off to an early lead here, leading by 10 halfway through the first. Rebounds are level. Turnovers are level. We are out shooting them, though, by quite a bit. They're just shooting 33% from the field. And, even worse, 33% from the foul line, though they just improved that a bit there. But with better than 50% from the field, we are having a nice little boost. If we were shooting better than 2 of 8 from beyond the arc, we'd be a bit further ahead than we are right now, as Minnesota very much staying in the game and a bit of momentum working their way. I'm going to go ahead and use a 30-second timeout here to try to regain some momentum. And that's not going so well for us, as the score is level now with just a minute left to play in the first half. Nice little run, though, to end the half. Maybe Minnesota try to get back in it here. And there you go. 40-34 is the halftime score. That's pretty solid. We'll jump straight into the second half and start looking at individual performances here. Harrington's got 5 points, 3 assists, 4 boards. Good halftime score for him. Ramey's got 7 and 4. Clint King's got 4 points now, 5 boards for him, now 7 points. So Clint King getting things started here early in the second half, as he has done most of the scoring since we came out of halftime, and we've opened up a huge lead all of a sudden and massive amounts of momentum, most of that through Clint King. We opened up to an almost 20-point lead from 5-point lead to open the second half. Delord also getting it done, so most of that work happening in the post. Watkins up to 8 points and 4 boards. Granberry's got 7 boards, but only 3 points scoring, so he's not a great scoring threat, but he's getting a lot of rebounds for us and really helping defensively as a team leader. It's 65-44 with 10 to play. Rebounds are level. Turnovers +5. Field goal percentage really where it's done, though. We are holding them still well below 40%, while we are shooting above 50%. Free throws, we're not getting very many attempts, only 7 for the game. But that 3-point percentage has improved quite a bit. 7 of 19 now. We were 2 of 8 earlier, so that's 5 of our last 11 beyond the arc. Also, we're not getting into any kind of foul trouble. We just committed our 4th foul that last possession. 5 minutes played. The lead is down to 8, though. Momentum really shifted Minnesota's way. So for the second time, they've made a real run here. Go ahead and use a 30-second timeout and see if we can't regain control here. Leads back up to 10, 75, now 77. But a 3-pointer there by Minnesota cuts the lead back to single digits. 2 minutes to play. 6-point lead. Slow this down here. 9-point lead. 11-point lead, so a few straight scores opens it back up. Clint King now sitting on 13 points and 10 rebounds with a double-double. He's got a few assists to go with it. Just 1 turnover. Delord has 17 to lead all scores. Tahid, their leading scorer, is out. They've had Richardson foul out of this game. I don't have anyone with more than 3 fouls. It's 87 now, 90-79. We'll cruise to victory here in the final seconds. And there you go, 90-79. Final rebounds, we fell behind there late. That must have been during their run, -6. But turnovers +7. Field goal percentage did drop a bit. Theirs went up a bit. So that all kind of accounts for our 20-plus point lead suddenly getting down to single digits and even closer. But we kept them off the free throw line there in the second half. That certainly helped. Come away with the win. So 4-1 RPI coming up. We're inching our way towards a 100. Next up is a road game. It's Abilene Christian, so we're heading down to Texas. Meanwhile, in the national championship front, the top 25 of the country, Kentucky and Duke, Gonzaga at the top, usual suspects there, but Purdue off to a really good start. Even at 6-1, they are ranked all the way up at number 4, above the likes of Kansas, Arizona, Vanderbilt, who are all undefeated still. North Carolina undefeated all the way down in 9th, below the Lobos. Syracuse rounds out the top 10. University of Oregon, my alma mater, down in 18th, even though they are undefeated, but they've only played 4 games so far. Villanova, a program that's struggled a little bit in recent years. Off to a good start this season, 4-1, number 25 in the country. And Abilene Christian gets the win. We dropped to 4-2 now. So that puts us at 2-2 on the road, 2-0 at home. So if we were able to carry that over as a trend, win at home, go 500 on the road, we're looking at a pretty solid season. Something along the lines of, 22, 23 wins. That would definitely get us up there and potentially get us in a position to rebound or rubber band our way right back up to Conference G. Remember my original playthrough, the 2017 series, I started all the way down in Conference V. We worked our way up. I only ever was demoted once, and it was the first time I was promoted from Conference V to U. The next year, I rubber banded right back down to V, and then from there, it was all upward trajectory. Not every season. There are a few seasons where I'd stay in a conference for a couple years or even 3 years, but we eventually made our way all the way up to G, winning Conference G at the end. So when I started my series here in the 2019 edition, my coaching attributes stayed the same, the team prestige was the same, but it was an all-new team, new roster, essentially just carrying over what we had in Conference F, and that roster was not good enough at all. So we quickly dropped to Conference G. I stayed there for a year, and now we're in Conference H after our second relegation in 3 years. So it'd be nice to get going the right direction here. Let's see. We have Portland State coming up, our rival, and for a change here, I've got a huge advantage. Heavily favored. Granbury, King, Delord, all better players. And it's nice to be in that position because last season, literally every game but one the entire season, we were the underdog. And that one, where we were the favorite, we lost that game. And we were, 0-10, 0-11 to start, 0-10 to start the conference schedule. And then it took 5 out of the last 6 to go 5-11, but that still put us 2 games short of survival. It was going to require a 7-9 season to stay up. Usually 6-10 is about enough. 7-9 definitely enough. But we were well below the mark. Okay, well, the injury report is down to nothing. That's good. We are at 5-2 now, by the way. Mississippi Valley is the next one on the schedule. It's another home game. Presumably, we should be good enough to make that 6-2. Top 25, haven't seen very many changes in the rankings. Kansas picks up a loss but moves above Purdue in the rankings. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Though we don't know who it is they beat and who they lost to. Clinton King, still our leader, about 16 points per game. I haven't had numbers that high from a player in a long time. Ramey's getting 7.5 assists. That's really high numbers. King's getting 10 boards a game, has 2 blocks a game. So the freshman is just absolutely tearing up the competition right now. And Delord, beside him, is providing some really quality numbers. 6-2, as we won both of those home games this week. You have new mail. Take a look at the schedule just to see what the scores were. 84-74 over Tennessee. So that was actually a pretty big game. Their RPI inside the top 100, even though they're just 4-4. Oh, that's a high prestige team for sure. Oh, ouch! Mississippi Valley State, 0-7. Portland next. They are 4-4, but that's another home game. We started with 3 road games, so we're kind of making up for that during this stretch where we've got 5 out of 6 at home. We'll have 2 more on the road with South Carolina upstate and Missouri, Kansas City. After that, both of those teams decent records, 4-3, decent RPI. Our RPI is inside the top 100. That's nice. Here's South Carolina upstate. Big favorites in that one too, even bigger than we are against Portland State. Okay, we should just have the one game against not Portland State. Portland, UP, University of Portland. In the last one, I had Portland State as the rival. This time, it's the Portland Pilots. I'm going to get those two confused with each other for a little while. Unless I switch that rival over. And maybe we eventually get to the point where our conference is high enough where we change the rival. Maybe we start with Oregon State, work up from there. Maybe Washington State. 7-2. So we get that rival win. Definitely some road games coming up though, so this is going to get to a bit more challenging stretch. Stat comparison for the team. We are scoring the ball really well this season, 83.5 points per game. The assists are up there as well, 19 a game. Rebounds, not quite as high, but when your shooting percentage is pretty high, you're not going to grab quite as many rebounds. Blocks is okay. Steals is quite high, 7.8 per game. Our opponents are still scoring pretty well, though, so our defense is definitely not as high as it should be. Just 4 steals a game, so we're protecting the ball well.
You have new mail.
Not massive favorites for that game, but definitely favorites. They've got the backcourt advantage. Well, my freshmen have the advantage there. Their bench has the advantage. And that is a road game. Wow, just one game each of these 3 weeks. That's really spread out. That's kind of difficult. Let's see here. We are middle of December. Let's go ahead and push through these weeks, especially with just one game in each of these weeks. Eight and 2, got the win there. Next up, Missouri, Kansas, again on the road. This one, we are not as heavily favored. We're still favored, though, but it is a road game, so this Missouri, Kansas team is a bit better than our last couple of opponents. Win or lose, this is our final non-conference game. We've already got 8 wins. This already ensures the best record we've had through the non-conference schedule in 4 seasons here with the team. Kings numbers coming up a little bit higher, over 16 points a game now. Kentucky and Duke still on top of the standings. It's now Arizona up to number 3. Gonzaga continuing to win, but they've dropped from 3rd down to 7th, even though they're still undefeated. Michigan and Syracuse both moving their way up.
You have new mail. You have new mail.
Okay, our first couple of conference games are going to be Kent State, who's just 3-8. Big favorites for that one. Air Force, big favorites there as well. And so much of it keeps coming down to Granberry and King. Those two players are so dominant. DeLord occasionally a favorite, most of the time relatively neutral. RPI is up to 69. So we're definitely not to a point of becoming a ranked team or anything like that. But a contender for the conference. A contender at least for a promotion spot, top 3. Maybe top 4 with a run in the conference tournament. Hopefully we'll have a chance at that this year. We do get the win there. So we finish our non-conference record at 9-2. Just 2 losses. Both coming on the road. Perfect at home. But that doesn't necessarily translate. Last season we were 7-4 in the non-conference schedule. And then next thing I knew we were 7-14. Oh no. Is that right? I don't think we were that good. Well, might have been. I don't remember for sure. All right, end of December.
You have new mail.
Moving into January. It's 2022 now. New Year's Day. Okay, the next couple games, DePaul, Bowling Green State, 0-11. Ooh. And it looks like we're going to be fairly heavily favored. In all these games coming up, we've got a real chance to start much better. Remember, it took 11 games before I got a win last season. I'll wait until we have a more challenging game. I think we're going to cruise past Air Force. I really do. We have no injuries right now. I guess one thing to check on, though, is to see where we are with Ramey. And yes, we do open with a win against Air Force. Kent State is on the road, but they are just 3-10 overall. So we've got a real advantage in terms of records, as we're almost mirrored each other. Got 10 wins, they've got 10 losses. But anytime you're on the road, I've said this many times in the past in draft day college basketball, home court, anytime you're on your home court, you've got a chance. You could play the number one team in the country. We could play Kentucky. We could play Duke. We could play Arizona. We've got a chance at home. Now, teams are better than other teams. So if I were, say, Indiana, the 6th-ranked team right now, and we do get the win, 11-2 now. Bowling Green is next on the road. If I were, say, Indiana, playing at home, I'd have a much better chance against Duke or Kentucky than the Olympic Decathlon rings, despite our record, as nice as it is. We're not that good. We've got 2 really good players. We've got a third definite quality player, but we're still weak in the backcourt. We're still weak on the bench. And that's not all going to suddenly just go away. I mean, we were a team that struggled to win 5 conference games last season.
You have new mail.
It's definitely not the same team this season. It's a much better team. Regardless of that, we're not, Indiana or anybody else in that top 25, really. College of Charleston, 3-10. Jacksonville State 3-10. So we're really lucking out right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at this point at the standings and see as we're just getting things started. It is so early, but look at all these teams that are below 500. TCU off to an 0-2 start, but they're 8-5 overall. Rutgers 7-6. The team that I can never pronounce, I think I've heard it called Duquesne, 8-5, even though that would be a reversal of the S and N. George Washington 8-5. Bowling Green. Okay, so our next opponent, Bowling Green, they were 0-11. They're now 2-11. So they're a perfect 2-0. So that non-conference schedule can be very, very deceiving. But right now, East Tennessee State, Chattanooga, and myself definitely look like the teams to beat. But George Washington, Duquesne, Rutgers could definitely have something to say about that. Bowling Green, I don't think they're going to go, 10-6 or 12-4 in conference. I think losing 11 straight games to open the season is indicative of being a bad team. So even though they won their first 2 games, but we are going on the road. Okay, no, staff. Well, let's take a look. I do have 2 guys with 1 year left. I have tried to negotiate with them before, but we have one that wants to get promoted. And he wants to see if he's going to get a head coach job. So I'm going to have to try to re-sign them in the off-season, it looks like. I don't think they're going to change their mind anytime soon. Ramey. Come on, dude. I just gave you a month of... Well, that's gone away now. No, not attitude. Academics. Study more. Get a tutor. I'm curious about the suspension one. I might suspend him for a week here, even though he's a starter. I'm going to do it. I'm going to suspend him for 1 week. There you go. Okay, so he accepts it. So he's on a study suspension for 1 week. And he's assigned to study more, get tutored, which he already had that. I'd done it right before starting the recording. So he just spent virtually the entire last month. That just expired a few days ago. And Granbury has food poisoning, which will last 1 day. So the 9th, tomorrow. not going to watch the game yet. I mean, they're 2-11. We should win this. But let's see what the box score ends up being. I am benching one starter, and I've got another starter with food poisoning. Because I put him on suspension. Yeah, it's all empty. Okay, so AI suggest. There we go. So it looks like Watkins is picking up the minutes. We'll see how Watkins does and how the team does overall. Whether I've sacrificed too much? No, we do come away with the win. Close game, 74-69. King, 13 points, 9 boards. Nearly fouled out of the game. Just one turnover though, couple blocks. Runyon, 17 points for him. That's a good day. Granberry had 10 points, 5 boards, a few steals. Oh my goodness, Watkins nearly cost us the game. Look at that, 8 turnovers. He had 12 points though, so he did get a decent amount of scoring done. He had 4 assists, but 8 turnovers. So Watkins is definitely the reason why that game was quite close. Granberry played 29 minutes, so it looks like he was fine. Next up is DePaul at home. They are 5-9. Hopefully Watkins doesn't cost us that one. A couple days till that game. I'll do the same thing. We'll check the box score and again see if Watkins. One more day till that game. Meanwhile, back on the national scene, both Kentucky and Duke have taken losses now, but Kentucky's still ranked number 1 at 15-1. Duke has dropped down a few spots. Arizona and Gonzaga move into the top 3. I was really confused as to how Gonzaga, who continued to win games, was dropping down the rankings, but it does happen, I guess. Again, we'll check out the the box score on this one. It's a home game. Don't let me down, guys. Don't let me down. There we go. 4-0 in conference. 79-70. Watkins, 5 turnovers, a little bit better. He did have 10 points. He was a plus 15, so he apparently actually had a pretty good game, despite turning the ball over quite a bit. King had 19 points, plus 21, 9 boards. There's your dominant guy, player of the game. But Delord definitely helped him out. Runyon helped him out. Granberry, again, not the greatest scorer, but you can see that he really does get it done in a lot of ways. 8 rebounds, 3 assists, just 1 foul committed, just 1 turnover in the game. If he only shot the ball better, he was 1 for 11 in the game, bringing down the team average quite a bit. All right, we've got Jacksonville State coming up next. That is a road game. And we're not going to win them all. There's no way we're going 16-0 in the conference. There will be some losses. I've never had a perfect run in the conference before. I think the best I've ever managed was 13-3 in conference in that previous series, and that was with a pretty dominant team. We don't have a dominant backcourt. We've got Clint King is absolutely beast out there. Granberry is more of what I would expect at this point from these guys. I think Granberry can become super dominant. I worry that Clint King is so dominant that he will go straight to the draft.
You have new mail.
RPI climbing up just a little bit, 60 now. The teams we've been playing haven't been that good. Jacksonville State we already looked at, but 3-10 at the time. I don't know what they are now. College of Charleston also. Illinois, Chicago, definitely a little bit better. And then here comes George Washington. That is the game that we'll tune into next, is that's going to be a big matchup. They're already a 10-win team. And slightly favored. Ooh. Look at that lineup right now. Do I have... Ramey back yet? Will it show me anywhere other than calling him? I guess I gotta call. Okay, so his week suspension is up. So that is good. Sorry, we didn't talk about anything. Just wanted to say hi. So, hi! Back to sub-rotations. I didn't change the depth chart, so we'll put this back in, and it still shows Watkins Y. Depth chart. Did it take him off? It took him off the depth chart. So Ramey. And apparently there's no difference between these two players, but that's definitely not the case. Actually, oh, that's because he's 1 star. Ward. Reiner, look at all this potential. Outside of Otis Ward. And I think that's one of my seniors that's about to graduate. Okay, now fix that. There we go. Now it's back to Ramey. Okay, it's not this week. We're worried about the games, though Jacksonville State certainly could come away with a win. We're not massive favorites for that game. It's certainly not automatic. Like I said, that home court advantage is absolutely a thing, but we do come away. College of is next. No, that would be Charleston, right? Charleston Southern, I thought, maybe. Home game, that's definitely a game that should come out a win. And if we start 6-0, we'll already have more conference wins than we had last season. The entirety of last season. Arizona has taken over the number 1 rank in the nation, and they appear to be the last undefeated team. And so much for that, as they dropped their first game of the season. So now, with 2 losses, we are up there. There's only, 5 one-loss teams up there? I'm not saying there's not some other 2-loss teams somewhere. And we get our win, 6-0 in conference, 15-2 on the season. Last time we saw the RPI was at 60. Once this week wraps up, it could go that little bit higher. But next opponent is George Washington. and it's on the road. So our first conference loss very much could happen in that game. We appear to be healthy, so we've got everyone available for the game. That's absolutely a boost. Wolf appears to be the guy to watch out for. 15 points a game, 6 boards a game. But 6 isn't a lot. We're definitely out rebounding him. King is, anyway.
You have new mail.
No. Oh, it's funny how that happens. Because the strength of schedule is very much a piece of this. Our RPI drops by 9 spots despite continuing to win. TCU coming up. That's another good team. They're up to 11-6 now, but we are favored for that. East Tennessee, 10-7, favored for that. So they definitely like us. And the lineup, okay, so the lineup has changed to make us stronger in a way. I see what they're doing now. So Runyon has been promoted to play center. DeLord has moved from center to power forward. King has moved from power forward to small forward. And Granberry has moved from small forward to shooting guard. And then Ramey is in there with them. Now, Runyon's been the starter. He was relegated. He's been the starter since his freshman year. He's been relegated to the bench because of King was just too good to not put in the lineup. So we'll kind of see how effective that is against George Washington. And more importantly, how dominant King is. If he's less dominant as a small forward, I might need to move him back and kind of reset that lineup, reset that depth chart. Because, let's see here. Depth chart wise, Watkins is a shooting guard by trade anyway. So I think what's happened here is Watkins was in the starting lineup. He was just the starting shooting guard. And everybody shifted up a spot to get Runyon in there. So looking at these guys now, what do we have? I think it just shifted everybody up. Not on purpose, but just as a feature. I'm going to go ahead and switch these guys back. Because I'm worried that playing these guys all out of position is going to have a bigger impact. Negative impact. So I'm going to reset that. And then sub-rotation. Let's try this again. This should be back to about what we had. All right, so this will be the end of the episode. We'll wrap up with this game, but let's go ahead and see this one out. We'll see it out as quickly as we can, though, because I am kind of right at the end of our time limit. This will be a great opportunity to take a big game on the road and really establish ourselves at the top of the conference. However, it's a good team, and we're on the road. I would not think that we would be a favorite to come out and win this game. The odds makers had us just about 50-50. Early on, all of our scoring was Clint King. He had the first 5 points. Granberry gets the next 2, so the freshman stepping up, leading the team early in this one. They're not afraid of the challenge of George Washington on the road. And we got a tight game. A lot of lead changes here early on as we trail by 1. Rebounding is very much in our favor. We had 5 of the first 6 in the game, 6 of the first 9 now. Turnovers, -1, but that's not a big deal. It's pretty tight at this point. Field goal percentage is kind of the big thing, as they've only missed 5 shots here early on. So we might be dominant in a lot of the stat categories, but in shooting, both teams right around 500, has George Washington with a small lead here early on, but it's stretched to 8 points. They've got some momentum. TV timeout there has brought us back into this thing a little bit. No, now trailing by 10. Trailing by 12. I'm going to use the 30-second timeout there. We come out of that timeout unable to score, and momentum still going George Washington's way. I'm still leading some stat categories, but turnovers are high, and it is absolutely down field goal percentage as we're just 35%, and they're shooting almost 60% from the field. And we now trail by 16 as we approach half. 18. Use another timeout. I hate using this many timeouts in the first half, but this lead's going to become insurmountable before long here as we're approaching halftime, and they've nearly doubled us up. Halftime score is 25-43. We trail by 18 points. King getting the job done, but he's not getting much support out there at all. So we had a nice battle early in the game, and then a little run became a huge run, and 2 timeouts later, we still couldn't shut that run down. Hopefully, halftime, I'll have settled the team down there in the locker room, and we'll come out playing much better, but not looking that way as the lead quickly jumps. Now a little bit of a run going. Can we keep it going? Can we get some momentum? Just barely so far, but the lead's already down to 14. Shooters have gone cold, and whatever momentum we had is gone, and now George Washington puts that lead right back up to 19. Rebounds, -2. Turnovers, -6. Shooting percentage is really where we're getting hurt. 1 of 9 beyond the arc. If we can just start making some threes, making some shots in general, we could really get back into this game. The lead was back up to 20 there for a moment. At the moment, it's 19. Back-to-back buckets, and then a 3 from George Washington. There's a 3 for us finally. 4 of 14 now. We're starting to get some makes. But we can't build the momentum. We're just trading buckets here with 6 minutes to play. Ouch. They just went on a 8-0, 10-0 run now. Yep, George Washington's going to win this, and win this comfortably. It's going to largely come down to shooting. King's having a huge day, 22 points, 10 boards, 9 of 13 shooting. Watkins, though, really struggling, 1 of 9. Let's see here. Runyon's in there. Runyon, yeah, he's having a quiet day, so kind of comparing Watkins and Runyon, but final score, 88-65. King had a massive day. Harrington had a good day off the bench. But that was about it. Team struggled. We were -10 on rebounds. We were -4 on turnovers. We did get the field goal percentage up in the end, but they still ended up shooting over 50% for the game. 19 of 23 from the charity stripe as well. Made that an almost impossible task for us. So we drop our first conference game of the season. But it took 7 tries before that happened, and it was on the road at a very good team. So it kind of feels good that that's what it took for us to finally lose a game. We'll end this episode by looking at the conference standings. And we're now level on top with George Washington, who just beat us, as well as Chattanooga. We were all a couple games clear of the next group. And a trio at the top would mean automatic promotion for all 3 teams with just 1 spot left to be fought for amongst these other teams, trying to go for conference tournament win. Still perfect at home. 7-3 on the road. We've played more games on the road than we have at home. All of that leads towards a pretty solid season. Now, the last thing I'm going to glance at here, Chattanooga's RPI right now is 14. So all 3 of us looking quite good. Beyond that, Albany is the only other team over 500, and TCU, Duquesne's. We do have TCU coming up here real soon, and they're 8-1 at home. I'm not sure whether we're playing them at home or away, but that's not going to be an easy game. If we have to go there, even at home, it won't be an easy game. But that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer, and remember, I'm aiming for the best of the best. So if you're ready to join me on my journey, hit subscribe, and tune in next time on my Road to the Record. Bye for now.